Anyway, Wealth Watchers, let's go. Y'all give them a hand. Carrie Davis and Fawn Weaver. They got some great information. And they have an awesome company.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am super excited. I know it's been a long day, but as always, the best thing is always the last part. So for those of you who stayed, you're going to have some nuggets, and you'll have some bragging rights on those who left early. So first and foremost, it's the end of the day, so I can't start without saying congratulations, Troy and Mo, on another successful celebration. You guys can do better than that. Every year, I think you're gonna, I always wonder, okay, so who are these people and what are they doing? And then I'm always left in awe. So your brain is just amazing, Mo, the introvert of the soul. So today, everyone, I would like to introduce Fawn Weaver, and I'm not going to do much of an introduction because she's going to introduce herself. What I will share with you, we weren't able to pull it up here, but there is a video that's narrated by Jeffrey Wright that provides the story of Uncle Nearest. We're not going to get into a whole lot of that here, but I do ask that everyone go and watch the video. Of course, if you've not tried Uncle Nearest, you definitely need to try it, whether you are a brown person or not. And if you get an opportunity to go to the distillery, it is definitely a place you would want to do. So, Fawn, welcome to Jacksonville.
Thank you.
So let's get started, and I am actually going to pose these questions to all of you. Fawn, as I was doing the research on you, there were some nuggets that came out of the story. And it's amazing because you tell the same story over and over again, and it's your story. So it makes it real easy, but each time I've heard and watched the interview, I got something else out of it. So I've listed just some words that I would like to use for you to tell your story, and Mo and Troy for you to add to it. One of the things that I got from all of your interviews is that you have no fear of failure. And as you think about your journey, not just starting with Uncle Nearest, but out of the womb, leaving home at 15, having your first business at 18, celebrating your 18th birthday in the homeless shelter. When you think about your business and your journey, what does no fear of failure mean to you?
I don't know that I have no fear of failure. I don't look at failure as failure. I don't look at it the way that everyone looks at it. I do not believe that failure is failure. You have to give up. And so for me, I've never seen anyone fail who did not first give up. So it's all in how you frame the failure. So everything that people see about me now that they praise and they talk about, and it was built upon what someone else would have considered a failure. I just didn't. So for me, it is I simply do not believe in failure. Failure is not failure unless you give up before you succeed. And I just refuse to give up before I succeed in anything that I set out to do.
Thank you. And using faith as the foundation of everything you do, can you walk us through your journey of leaving home at 15 and what faith looked like for you?
I think faith at 15, I didn't know what that was. I knew that I had a bunch of rules in a household, and that didn't work for me. So I don't know that was faith. That was youth. but I had an understanding that I was who I was, just like I am now who I am. And I think one of the greatest blessings of my life is that I left home at 15 years old, and I moved to the projects, and I got to experience who I was without other people molding me. One of the biggest disservices I think that we do, especially to children, is if you watch a child, you will know what they were destined to do at age 7. But we put them into classrooms where there's 30 other people and a teacher who just doesn't want to have to understand what each child was here to do, because that's not what they're here, that's not what teachers are for. The teachers these days They're not there to figure out, well, what's your destiny? They're there to figure out, how do I get you to do a standardized test? Which means I need to mold and shape you to go all in this one direction. Yes. Well, I didn't have anybody to mold and shape me. So I didn't have any obstacles to get over to just be me.
And Troy and Mo, thinking about that, in terms of even your journey with Think Bold, you had to have faith because, again, in Jacksonville being a smaller market, not really seeing the vision, you guys did it anyway. The first year, you know, there were not a lot of sponsors, etc. But you were fast forward, unstoppable, unmovable. So as you think about Think Bold and several of the other endeavors that the two of you have done, how does your faith and your, you know, failure isn't an obstacle for you? It happens.
Well, Miss Davies, you kind of know me. I just don't give a shit. We're gonna move. We're gonna just make things happen. I'm just not scared. I'm not shook. If I have it in my gut, if my gut says do this thing, I'm gonna do this thing. And so, having an opportunity to sit with Mo several years ago and say, "Are we gonna do this thing?" And he said it was in his gut. So we just move. I mean, and we knew we were going to do it. God has obviously been a trailblazer for us because sometimes we don't even know how we're going to pay these bills. Like the bills come doing this stuff, you know, $60,000 for hire, $30,000 for this, $60,000. We didn't even, but we were like, it's in our gut, we're going to move, and we make way. So that's my thought.
I would echo that definitely. I think sometimes, you know, one thing a phrase Troy came up with, but I've adapted it as my own, so I'm gonna state it like my own today. But one thing we always say, put your foot on the gas, right? So once you find your destination, you hit the highway, you ain't really got time to look at everything off of all the X's. You just got your foot on the gas. You're going because you know where you're going. So I think that's one thing, you know, for us, once we both took hold to the vision, we was just like, okay, press the foot on the gas, no option until we get to our destination. All the potholes in the road and everything else that we encounter, we just got to keep going, flat tires and all. We gonna go.
Yeah. And Fawn, that brings me to a point that I've over and over again, I've heard you say, and for all the entrepreneurs that are out here that are looking to launch a business, that don't know quite the direction, one of the things you talked about over and over again was doing your homework and doing your research. So for the audience, can you share your journey of research and what brought you to Uncle Nearest from that point?
My journey of research is pretty different than what most entrepreneurs would be doing. So I want to just, what I did wasn't really normal. What I did wasn't for the purpose of the brand. It was for a book that now comes out in June. And so from my research was bringing together 30 historians, archaeologists, genealogists, and archivists, conservators, and pulling thousands of documents from 6 different states, bringing them to the original home of Jack Daniel, and where Nearest Green was the master distiller of distillery number 7, buying that 313-acre property. None of that stuff is stuff y'all have to do. So I don't know that there is something that connects there. But for me, it was a matter of cementing a legacy. It was not about building a whiskey brand. So to this day, I am, in terms of Black spirit brands, I am the only founded that has succeeded, period, ever. So that is a statement of what I have done, but I still don't consider myself in the spirits business. I still don't consider myself in the whiskey business. I'm in the legacy cementing business. And whiskey is just one of the things I'm using to cement the legacy of the first known African-American master distiller.
That's a mic drop right there.
And I think think for me, being a CEO of a nonprofit, again, our research is similar. I mean, when we go into a new community or we look at serving a new population, it's so critical that we understand who they are and what they do. And I know with your story, part of your research was even just going to the city, listening to not one, not two, but as you said, hundreds of people, and doing the interviews. Because so often when we go into a new area, whether it's business, etc., we'll go in without all the information. And sometimes it's difficult for you to make the right decisions if you don't have all the information. Troy and Mo, for you, I know part of your research was market studies and understanding that, in fact, you had a level of confidence while you put your foot on that gas, you knew you were going in the right direction.
You know, first before I answer that, I need to say I'm so proud to be here with you two ladies, because one thing we did do right, we actually curated and wanted to make sure it was you two that sat together. So Mo and I said, we see Fawn, she's the CEO of a major company, yada, yada, yada. But who's the dope fly CEO, female woman here in the city of Jacksonville?
You say that one more time.
I said, who's the dopest CEO woman in the city of Jacksonville? And so as we went back and forth, we was like, that's Miss Davis. So that just made all the sense in the world to have you two ladies. So I just want to say, that's kind of like the big thing for us right now. Now, I actually forgot your question. I sit here thinking about, we have two fly CEOs that are women of color, that are making major moves in their respective areas, and that's dope. And I hope this inspires everyone in this room, not just everyone, but also women. This is just inspiring. So I really forgot. I was inspired.
Don't worry about it.
Sorry.
So Fawn, if you could spend some time talking about once you decided to create the Uncle Nearest and the brand, you did a couple of things. Number one, you do all of your PR, so you tell your story. But also, you ran into some obstacles. There's not a blueprint for you as a black woman in this industry. So can you talk about from the moment you decided that you pivoted from it being a book right then to being an entire brand, and what happened when you called the other distilleries and spirit companies and tried to get information, your team, which is an all-female team. Can you talk about that?
Sure. There's a lot of sort of questions wrapped into that question. The origin story of Uncle Nearest. When I began working on that, of course, my team, there's certain things we have to do. We have to, at the time, buy whiskey. So one of the things you would do while you're starting the distillery is you source your whiskey for a while, and you have to source it from a place where it makes it the way that you want it made, and have your blender do what you want to do with it. And one of the things that my team discovered, or I discovered from my team, each one would be calling around and nobody was returning their phone calls. And each person would tell me separately, and after I heard it a number of times, I said, that's interesting. My head of business isn't being returned. At the time, she was my chief sales officer. She's now my chief business officer. But Kate's not having her calls returned. Sherry, director of operations, not having her phone calls returned. I'm not having my phone calls returned. And these were things that we needed in order to be able to get the business off the ground. Corks, bottles, distributors, like normal stuff, right? And so I called my husband and I said, hey, I have a theory on something and I just want to test this out. And I had my leaders each send me who they had tried to call, a synopsis of what they needed, and I asked my husband to call each of them and to say that he had a new whiskey company. And he did that. And every phone call where we had been trying to reach people for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, he got through on the first call, or they would call him back by the end of the day. And a part of that conversation, by the end of it, would always be, hey, do you golf? Do you like beer? Let's go grab a beer. Let's hit some holes. And so it was a boys' club for so long, but this is where I go back to, I'm just wired different. When I learned that that's what was happening, I was so happy. Because no person of color have ever succeeded in this industry, neither have any women. And so what they were doing by trying to block me is I said, y'all will let me build this under the radar. So if you look at any press that I did, and you're talking about thousands of press hits in the first 2.5 years of Uncle Nearest, you will never see me as founder and CEO. I was chief historian. Because for the industry and the consumer, they weren't used to seeing me. And I knew they would have to see me at some point, so I didn't feel the need to impact my business by making them see me at the beginning. I had no ego about it. So it was, I don't have time to be dealing with your bias and to be all in your face about your bias. I don't care. I'm going to build a multi-billion-dollar company right under your nose. And you're going to let me because you don't think I can. And so for years, people thought, now mind you, my husband was an executive vice president of Sony Pictures. He didn't have time to be running this company. But for years, they thought that he was the person who ran the company and I was the really cute marketing girl. Didn't bother me at all.
And Fawn, as you talk to many of the individuals, and I know at the end we're going to have time for questions, but you stated something in this part of your answer, the humility of it, being humble, and how you have to move your own ego out of the way sometimes in order for you to be successful. I remember, and this just literally happened last year, we had some issues with permitting. I built houses, and the guy said to me, hey, I know you have the knowledge, but it would be wise of you to allow your project manager, who I was teaching at the time, to reach out to this particular reviewer to get the questions asked. And I was like, in 2023, this is what we have to do. And initially I was upset because I'm like, this is 2023. But you're right. I'm like, okay, as long as I get my permit, I don't give a shit, quite frankly. So let's do what we do. So as many of the individuals in this audience, especially women, are going to face similar issues, can you talk about the humility of it in order to having that humility in order to get what you want to get accomplished?
You don't have the humility, for me, and I only speak for me. You don't have the humility in order to get something accomplished. You have the humility because God called you to that. So this was not about accomplishing. This was, God called me to be a specific way. And if he's the one who's breaking down walls and allowing me to jump over barriers and all the rest of that stuff, if he's really the one doing it, what could I be haughty about? So the humility isn't because I wanted to get something done. It's because I know that I've been able to do this because he has opened every door for me. So that's where the humility comes from. And whether you're a woman, whether you're a man, I personally think that it has benefited me greatly to be both black and be a woman. I am in a lot of rooms in which it is all billionaires, which means I'm the only one every time. And you've got a whole bunch of white dudes around the same age, although the kids with the shorts and the Jordans now, the tech kids, they're you got some young ones in there. But for the most part, they're always around the same age. They don't remember each other's names. But you know whose name they remember when I leave out of the room? Because I'm the only one. And so what other people see as a barrier, being black, being a woman, I see it as my greatest advantage because every room I go into, you will know my name by the time I leave. So it is, for me, it is the humility piece is I could not have built this if I put myself before God.
And that goes into your purpose. And understand, and you've understood your purpose, your assignment for a long time. Can you share that with us?
My purpose overall? Well, some of it I don't share, and the next generation will learn after I've died the things that I've put in place that I never put in the press. So the greatest portion of my purpose no one will ever know till I'm gone. But what I know for sure is that this company was always built for somebody that wasn't me. And it was always built to be passed to black hands in perpetuity. And the way that I have built it and the way that I have structured it, I believe will be a lesson for every future generation once they see what I was doing. So right now they see she's built a $1 billion plus company. She's building multi-billion-dollar companies. She's acquiring companies. Y'all will learn about those soon. Acquisition announcements coming down the pipeline. But you will see all of this stuff happening while I am alive, but people will understand why I was really here when I'm gone.
Wow. Unfortunately, I hate that we have to wait until then. But storytelling, so much of what you do is about telling your own story. And can you talk about the importance of telling your story and telling it often?
It's telling a number of stories. So for us as entrepreneurs, as specifically as women, as people of color, we don't have a whole lot of money to spend in marketing. So for instance, LVMH will not sneeze, which owns Moet Hennessy. They won't sneeze to spend $100 million in marketing. Neither will Brown-Forman, who owns Jack Daniel, neither will Bacardi, who owns Doucet, and all the rest of that stuff. So how does my million go toe-to-toe with their 100 million? It's real simple. I tell my story better than they know how to tell theirs. So I am able to level the playing field because I don't have to pay for people to see me and to hear me. Earned media. And so it's not just about telling my story every year. And I actually don't execute my PR. I oversee the strategy. So every year I lay out exactly what my PR team will be talking about for 12 months. Every month it will tell, in January, this is the story. In February, this is the story. So if you think about it, most people did not know that my company was black owned until 2020. I came out in 2017. It wasn't because I wasn't everywhere. It's because that wasn't my storyline. I had other storylines that I wanted to make sure in the market in 2017 and 2018 and 2019. People didn't know I had an all-female team from day one. That wasn't a part of the storyline until 2019. Because we have to have facets of our story that keep the press telling our story. Most people, you go on CBS this morning, you have a 6-minute piece. That's the best you're going to do the whole time you have your company. They've done that 3 times. Each time they've told a different aspect of my story because each time I'm giving them a different aspect of my story. So right now we're in the time frame, this 7 years, about to be 7 years. This is the time frame that I'm talking about me because it's that time in the strategy.
Wow. So I would like for you to explain and share with us. You often say when you walk into the door as one, know that you have 10,000 with you. There you go. So explain us to that one.
Oprah says 10,000, and we had millions who left the shores of Africa for America. A couple million died in the Middle Passages. The majority were dropped off in the Caribbean because that was closer. America is the furthest from where we began our journey. Only 388,000 made it to these shores. So every African American is the descendant of the strongest of the strong, mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, because that's the only way you can make that journey. So when I walk into a room, I don't really care who is in the room. I walk in with all the confidence in the world because I know I am a descendant of one of those 388,000.
And because you walk into that room, and this is something that's interesting, my daughter Shantez was asking me today, Troy, she said, who's Caleb? Where did he come from? I said, that's just one that Troy has brought in, and he brings in these amazing folks to do amazing things. And Fawn, not only did you start a foundation for the descendants of Uncle Nearest, children that can go to college, but in Tennessee, you also now have I think it's an accelerator program for other individuals who are interested in starting spirit companies. Can you talk about what you're doing to ensure that while you've walked through the door, you've made opportunities for others to come behind you, and you're also providing them the information and allowing them to shadow your staff? Can you talk about what you're doing for entrepreneurs in that space?
Sure, there's a couple of things. Before the first bottle of Uncle Nearest was sold, I was already paying for all of Nearest's descendants to go to college. And the reason I'm paying for all of Nearest's descendants to go to college is I plan on bringing all of them into the company so that they're the ones running this company. So that I've done that since 2016. Underwrite scholarships at every single HBCU. And so that's about 104, and not like a $2,500 scholarship, like we underwrite the whole entire tuition. And so that's another aspect of what we do. And then we have the Black Business Booster Program. In our industry, we're everybody's bat phone. So that Business Booster Program, that basically means that I open my Rolodex to any person who is in the industry that is founding a company of excellence. I should be clear about that. Because if it's a person with an idea without a thought through business plan, without a business plan with a SWOT analysis, I can't do nothing for you, man.
Yeah.
But if you have done the work and you come to me, if you need a distributor, I will put you in touch. If you need capital, I will have a whole line of investors for you. Whatever it is that a Black person founding a spirits company needs, if they reach into me, all they have to do is tell me, this is what I need, and I will make the connection for them. My entire team, my entire ELT is available to any Black founder in spirits. So that's the Black Business Booster Program. Then we have the Nearest and Jack Advancement Initiative that I wanted to make sure, even though they would never own a piece of my company, because Nearest and Jack, when they were alive, they worked together. I wanted to make sure we at least did something not-for-profit. And so we have a not-for-profit alliance where we have 3 pillars. The first, we haven't announced yet because the governor just signed off on it 2 days ago, but Nearest Green School of Distilling will be the first accredited degree program in America. That begins this fall at Motlow State College, and so that's one pillar of the Nearest and Jack Advancement Initiative. Another pillar is the business, what is the acronym for it? Business Incubation Program, BIP. And we literally bring in founders, but their entire company. We bring them under our wing. So whatever they need for an entire year. So I will give you a really good example. The first one, Denord. Denord was is a distillery in Minneapolis, and when the riots happened there after George Floyd, his building, they put Black owned all around it, and so once they did that, no one burned it. However, all of the smoke in the area caused the sprinklers to go off, so the entire building was destroyed.
Wow.
So we helped them to raise $500,000 in order to be able to redo that, but then we took them under our wings, which meant we redid all their branding, their trademarks, their legal, their everything that they needed. They got a deal from Delta to go on all of the Delta flights, those little 50 milliliters, but they didn't have ability to do that, so guess who bottled that for them? So that is the Business Incubation Program, and he's set up for the rest of his life. He'll be just fine. But we basically, everything that we had at our disposal became his disposal. That's the Business Incubation Program. And then the last one is the Leadership Apprentice Program, and that's the one I think you're referring to. And that is we have never had Black people at any top position in our industry ever. And so we can't do the crock pot version of getting people to the top. We needed the microwave version. And so what we do is we identify people that are already in the industry, and then we pay for them their full salary, and we pay for them to basically go and shadow all of the industry leaders. So in a matter of a 18-month program, the person who, for instance, was doing it to become a master distiller, she was able to shadow for 2 weeks each every major master distiller in this country, but then we also paid for all of her education, all of the tests to take. So she's certified in everything, and that's the Leadership Apprentice Program. So those are, you know, a few of the things we do.
Just a few, that's amazing.
Oh, I should say this though. On Tuesday, I will have 133 Black founders of spirit brands, spirit, wine, beer at my distillery, because spirit's on the rise. We bring together every top leader in this industry. So the head of our lobbying, CEOs of distributorships, CEOs of control states, national account buyers, like the people that they wouldn't be able to reach for at least another 10 years of working to meet these people. Because I make the phone call, they all show up. And then that room also has about 75 investors, and we let them pitch to these investors. So if they're ready and they have their stuff together, they will walk out there with every contact and every bit of capital they need to succeed in this industry.
Wow and wow. So now before we continue, I want to make sure, I'm not sure who's keeping time, but I definitely want to leave at least about 15 minutes. It's going to be you, Terry? Okay, and what will you do?
I'm doing the Q&A session.
Okay,
I'm
perfect.
sure people have questions.
So are we at 5:45 or we still got a little more time?
About 3 to 5 minutes. You're
Okay, great. So with the time we have left on before we open it up for questions, as the CEO. And so I had the opportunity, as I shared, to go to the distillery. And one of the things that I found refreshing was how the staff felt about Fawn and Keith's leadership. And again, that's been very intentional for you. I was also sharing with First Lady here, we were talking over social media, and I said, Kim, she has a chaplain on staff. So can you talk about your philosophy as it relates to how you treat your staff and the experience that you want your staff to have when they come to work for you?
I don't have any staff.
Okay.
I have colleagues.
Colleagues.
I have family. And everyone, I don't care if you are a janitor or the President of the United States, I treat you the same. And it does drive my husband a little crazy. He's like, sweetheart, that really was the President of the United States. You probably should not have called him by his first name. But to me, he's the same as the janitor. It is, so for me, everybody is equal. And when I say they're my colleagues, I mean, if an executive assistant has a better idea than mine, she overrules me. And so everybody in our company is collaborative, but I spend a lot of time making sure that they know I don't just care about them, but I also care about their family. So when we do holiday parties, the whole family is there. I know their kids, I know their cousins, I know their aunties, their uncles, their mamas, their daddies. Everybody comes, and we make sure that they are truly a part of the family, because they spend more time with me than they do with their blood family.
Absolutely.
And I want them to feel as though this is a family they want to show up for. I'm always happy when I get feedback on what they say when I'm not around.
Oh, yes.
The feedback's pretty consistent, so
It
I'm
is,
grateful.
Yes. And for my staff, you do hear that, so I'm not crazy, and I won't let you guys call me boss, and, you know, I make you all come and do fun stuff with me and bring the whole family.
Yes.
That's important. Troy and Mo, before we wrap this up, again, Think Bold is that way. As we have moved and we're closing out year 2 of Think Bold, you look around and you see a lot of the same volunteers that came last year. And they're excited, even when Think Bold is in its planning stage. So can you talk about the intentionality that both of you do to ensure that your team feels like family, and why that's so important, even in a special event such as Think Bold?
Well, number one, we can't even move without them. Like everyone with these red shirts on, and black T-shirts on. Like I just gotta say thank you so much because we could not move without you folks helping and making Think Bold exist. Mo and I can't do it. We needed all you folks with the red shirts on, black shirts on, and even folks that you might not even have the shirt on. So, you know, at the end of the day, as we talk and we have these Zoom meetings and our team leaders are talking to each departments, for lack of better wording, I mean, it's a buy-in for all of us, and we all believe in our city. We all believe that our city is being bold in its moves. You know, I remember when I first moved here, it was kind of sleepy, but this city is booming. Things are going vertical. You know, we are having some of the top brands and organizations and companies that are in our city now. So, as I shared with everyone earlier, for those who are sleeping, you better wake up because our city is popping, and that's what we want to be a part of. We wanted a conference that was similar to a few other conferences in Austin, Texas, and Atlanta, and we just wanted to make sure that we help support our community and push the narrative of our community. But it wouldn't happen without red shirts, black shirts. We can't do it. We would never be able to do it. I don't know. I don't think we'd be able to do it. I don't think.
No way possible we would be able to do it. And just to echo what you said, I think really the long-term commitment that we have to not taking more than we can digest every year and growing it slow, and really, you know, being appreciative of our community partners and people who sees it, but understanding the fact from a South by Southwest type of event, we just haven't really had that here. So really taking the time for the stakeholders, the city coming out and just saying, okay, well, you know, let us see what it's about. And then everybody kind of leaves out, oh, I get it. Okay, next year, let's do this. Next year. So I think, you know, I'm just excited, like you said, for what it's going to do for the city. And that's it. And we thank you for the volunteers. I mean, I think, yeah, praise God. Let's go. I'll just pass it. Just some Q&A.
Yeah, well, before we do that, there is, I always like to provide an opportunity for, you've given so much to us in this 45 minutes nuggets. But as individuals and as ambassadors, what can we do to move the brand forward and to support the work that you're doing?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. It is, I see an HBCU shirt over there, so I appreciate that. Really it is, people don't understand the way that we've been able to grow this brand is word of mouth. And so when you show up at a restaurant, I mean, even downstairs with Morton's, if there weren't people that were asking all over this country at Morton's, do you have Uncle Nearest, do you have Uncle Nearest, do you have Uncle Nearest, we wouldn't be in Morton's. And so the voice of consumers is very loud, and people don't realize how important it is. These decisions, yes, they're made a little bit in silos, but it's always based on what they're hearing in the marketplace. So just being out there and making sure that you are asking for it. And then if you don't drink, which is perfectly fine, we love our teetotalers too, make sure that you know the story of Nearest Green. So what she was talking about earlier, nearestgreen.com, it houses the film that Jeffrey Wright told the story of Nearest Green. So if you don't drink, still tell the story, because as I started with, I'm in the legacy cementing business. So that is also going to be through word of mouth.
And lastly, congratulations on the pre-sale of the book.
Yeah.
Mine is in
That's
order.
it, yeah.
Yes.
My-
So
yeah, we
also,
ordered-
because that's the other thing that they
yeah.
can do. And she
Yes.
also surpassed and
Yes.
made history. Please
Yeah.
tell us what we can do to support the
Yeah,
book.
if you haven't pre-ordered Love and Whiskey, you can order it anywhere. It can, wherever you usually buy your books, the pre-order. People don't understand the reason why we can count on one hand the number of black women that have topped the New York Times bestseller list is they don't understand how to do it. And ironically, neither do most publishers. They're just kind of shooting for it and hoping. I spent 2 years studying the algorithm, so I knew what it was. And a significant part of that is pre-sales, not pre-sales the week before, pre-sales months before, because that's when Target is deciding what they're gonna do. That's when Barnes and Noble decides we'll bring it in versus it being on a shelf. That's when Walmart decides, Costco decides, Hudson Airport decides. And so one of the reasons that we are never at the top of the list is we don't really start pushing the book until we're weeks before. And so we debuted four months ahead of time is when we began the pre-sale campaign, and we've already sold more than the last person who was the #1 person on the New York Times, and we're still in pre-order.
Come on.
So if you haven't pre-ordered, please pre-order.
Terry, I'm
All
turning
right,
it
all
over
right,
to
y'all
you.
give it up, y'all. Y'all give her a hand, man. Dynamic lady. Anybody got any questions? I'm getting drunk, just think about it. Uncle Nearest, that's the one. Y'all go out and get it. Y'all know y'all drink. Quit drinking all that other stuff. Who got a question? Anybody got any questions? Where my alcoholics at? Yeah. I've been telling you now, say I'm an alcoholic.
How about we not be alcoholics or even joke about that? The purpose of alcohol is to celebrate, not to be inebriated. So let's be real clear. I don't want to see nobody drunk on Uncle Nearest. I want to see people celebrate, but to be fully minded in doing so.
So I'm gonna say this, I'm born and raised here in Jacksonville. This going out to the entire panel up here. And then I'm gonna say this also, I'm married to a shot caller, so I know the struggles of, females in top positions. So women like you are truly a blessing. But this is something to the entire panel. Like I say, I'm born and raised. This event right here is something that's been long needed for Jacksonville. And the individuals such as Fawn Weaver to come here and sit on the panel and bless us with her presence and her story and everything that she has done along with the individuals they had last year, this is long needed. So I'm just giving you guys your props, letting you know, as a Jacksonville native, we appreciate this.
Awesome.
Thank you.
That gentleman back there too. Right there too. Yeah, okay.
Hi, my name is Annette Parker. This question's for Fawn. First, thank you so much for the time, the work.
We talk on IG.
We do, we do. So it's wonderful to meet you here formally. I have a question about your leadership style. One of the last questions that was asked. As a scaling company, which I still see Uncle Nearest as, how, as a CEO, have you trained your staff or your team, your colleagues, to take on more responsibilities when you have to let go? Are you letting go of certain things as your company grows? And how do you make that transition and then empower your colleagues to step up into that? I could consult a couple of entrepreneurs, and so I'm trying to help them see the next steps.
So what I don't do is hold stuff on tightly, right? I'm always wanting to let something go. The way that there's two things that are very common that you will hear in my company. One is HBU. If it is not highest and best use of Fawn's time, Fawn will not do it. And so things don't come to me unless they are HBU for me. So that's the first thing. The second thing is I have a general policy in just on GP. If somebody else can do it, then somebody else should be doing it. Because there's certain things that only I can do. There's certain things that no one else in my company can go out there and say that's the company to acquire. That's on my gut. And then no one else, but somebody else can oversee the due diligence for that, right? No one else can oversee the strategy for PR because nobody's gonna do it as good as me. So there's elements when for our cognac company, for instance, that will come to market next year, and you'll learn more about that next year. But even with that, in deciding how I wanted to tell the story and bringing in all the researchers to do it, I didn't just have them bring in the researchers and turn it over to a scriptwriter to write the short film that Jeffrey Wright will do. I had them give me the research. I then researched their research.
then I wrote the script, and then I hired the director, and that's the stuff only I can do. So my general rule, if somebody else can do it, then somebody else should be doing it. And that's how I have my company set up.
Hi, all, thanks. Back in December, I met Troy, the guys, about getting involved with Think Bold, and he called me the catalyst. And I knew what that, at the time, I didn't know what that meant. And I'm beginning to understand what that means, and the movement, or what it wants to do for Jacksonville. I'm here 3 years. I love the city, I know my mom lives close by. The energy you bring here, you guys are amazing. But what I look at the catalyst, meaning, what do we do? We talk about the struggles of women in business, men in business, minority-owned businesses, all that stuff. We all are entrepreneurs. We start a business from nothing, in a garage, in the backseat of a car, selling, sleeping, not in the car, to get it done. Well, what do we do to bring the next side of the city in? Without the support of the entire city, we're not going to grow like South by Southwest. You're going to be struggling to get the type of exposure you need, in my humble opinion. You work hard every day, morning and night. I'm proud to be part of this. But what do we do next to bring more people that look like me into this movement? Because without it, we're not going to get to that next place. And I hope that's not an insulting comment. I'm fearful to say it, but I also believe in what you're doing passionately. But what's the next step? And without that question, I don't think we'll ever get an answer. Anyway, thanks.
That's a great question. So, to answer that question, you know, Mo and I actually have a 20-year plan for Think Bold. So this is year 2. Because I used to work for Def Jam Music, Mo worked for Warner Brothers Music. I was a part of South by Southwest when it first started. That started in the 80s. A3C in Atlanta started in 2016-13. And I could go on and on the major music conferences that are now Innovation Tech. We understand, as Mo said earlier, patience. We're going to go we're just going to do benchmarks. We know we'll never be a South by Southwest in 2 years. They started in the 80s. So we understand that we have this 20-year plan, this master plan. We're in year 2. We're still in conceptualizing, for lack of a better word, understanding the different audience, understanding who folks want to see, understanding what stories we want to tell. Like this year, it was truly about women, you know. So we were proud to have Miss Fawn, we was proud to have Miss Carrie, you know, we had Synergy, the DJ. We did a lot of things this year based off of women. So we were trying to figure out our storytelling each year, but we know for a fact, God's will, that in 10 years, then I think we can look at that question you asked, and then we can absorb it then. But we understand this is year 2, and we know that it's going to take time. And all our partners, even as we sit with Live Nation, who's interested in partnering with us, we're very careful of, you know, just jumping in on anything. We want to make sure that we can digest it, we can take our time, but we're building. This is year 2, but thank you for that.
Good question. Can I piggyback off of that? When you said you're a catalyst, and you said people that look like you, you invite them. You invite people out that look like you. You sponsor people that look like you to come to these type of events, and that's how we'll continue to grow.
And Mike is a great partner, so,
He is a great
yeah,
partner.
listen, Mike and Mike, I don't know if the other Mike is in here, they sponsored all our merchandise. So every piece of merchandise that you see, that's based off of Mike and his other business partner, Michael, which I don't see. So, but I like the question, it needed to come out. And that's oh, trust him. I'm not shook at all. You know?
Don't be scared. Don't be scared. We just got to connect the dots. That's what it's all about, connecting the dots. And we need it on both ends.
The mayor's going to help. She's got a passion for the city.
Yes, the mayor
I'm sorry.
All right,
And I want some Italian meatballs next week at your house.
Hello, Ms. Fawn. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for the wealth of knowledge that you shared with us today. I'm an HBCU graduate. I'm embarrassed to say, but I probably have never sat up so straight to hear another woman talk to me. I was locked into what you were saying, and a lot of your qualities in business align with mine, so it was very like affirming for me the way you handle business. So my question is a more personal question. As a top executive, as a woman in charge, the HBIC, how do you stay grounded, like personally at home when it's just you and you're not having to be on camera and not have to be, operating in such a high space?
The good news is I am who I am at all times. I don't have a separation, so who I am at home is who I am in the workplace. So as collaborative as I am in the workplace is as collaborative as I am with my husband at home. Staying grounded at home is super simple. My husband and I we are each other's favorite people. And so we just are so grateful when we have time with one another. Like I looked at my calendar and saw I'm not scheduled to leave out until tomorrow morning. I was like, y'all, what just happened here? Because I want to see my husband tonight. So unless there wasn't a flight, like I need to understand this. Literally, I was texting that as I was walking in here when I saw my schedule. And so I am always wanting to get home. And I think for a lot of people, there is a belief that in order to have a great business, you have to sacrifice your personal life. I do not believe that. I think you have to make more time for your personal life. And so for me, balance in life means that I get to bring my whole self to every aspect of it. So if you are on a meeting with me and my husband is in that meeting, I don't change from calling him baby love. He's still my baby love. It doesn't matter that he's the CEO of Nearest Green Distillery. He's my baby love. So I am who I am at all times. And so I think that because I show up as my whole self in every situation, it allows for me to stay grounded because I'm just me.
I have one question. So, Carrie, thank you for doing such a phenomenal job in asking the questions. Thank you, audience, also for listening so much. But my question to you, Fawn, is this. We've asked a lot of questions. You've shared a lot of information. What is it that's in your mind that you want us to know that we've not touched on?
Question that's asked. So for me, the reason why when I come in and I speak, I never, ever, ever allow questions to come to me ahead of time. And I don't do like motivational speaking. I only do fireside chats because the people in the room are going to have the best questions. So even though, for instance, I haven't announced my book tour yet, but it'll be announced soon, and I don't have any hosts for my book tour. No hosts, no influencers, no celebs. It's me and the audience has the mic. So I believe that the best information I can share are responses to the questions of those who are there who are watching me. Because what matters to you is not necessarily what mattered to a group I spoke to last week.
Hello, Fawn. I am Ashante Green. I just want you to see me and know me because when I reach out and we work together, this was the seed that planted.
I love it.
So my family owns Green Legacy Farm. I'm also the sustainability director for the city of Jacksonville under Mayor Deegan. And I'm a problem solver, and I believe in what I do at my being because I believe in the people that I do it for. So I know that you said that you're big on legacy, and the brand is a conduit of that. So I just want to ask you how you leverage your brand to solve big issues. Because I work on sustainability, I'm working on food insecurity, and seeing that you own so much land and these are big issues, how do you leverage, your wealth to solve problems?
So how do I leverage my wealth or how do I leverage in general? Okay.
Wealth of knowledge.
Yeah, wealth of knowledge, okay. All right. So for me, everything that I do ties to purpose overall, right? I am an introvert of introverts, meaning I love being around people. We can take pictures all day, we can talk all day, I chit chat and all the rest of that stuff. That's my purpose. But I'm an introvert.
that means that after I've seen all y'all, I gotta go to bed. Like, I need to like not talk to anybody for a minute, because that's how I renew, that's how I recharge, right? And so understanding that that is how I am wired, I would love to not be on social media. Love. Any person in here who follows me on social media will tell you I respond personally to every single comment, every single DM. And the reason I do that, and the only reason I post, is because I want people to see exactly how I'm building in real time. A lot of people wait until they're on the other side of it, because they're like, well, what if on the way up something doesn't work out? Well, y'all gonna see that too. And so I do that because that is a part of my give back, is my life. You are going, everything that I learn that works, I'm gonna share it with you. And then if something isn't working when I'm on the other side of it, then I'm gonna tell you why it didn't work and what I learned from that. And so that is how I leverage it. But I would probably say the main thing that I do is, for those who don't know really truly who I am the first and only Black woman outside of sports and entertainment to build $1 billion plus company. So what I do with that is show everybody exactly how I did it. I don't hold back a secret. The secret sauce ain't secret when it comes to me. I tell people, all you have to do is go through my feed and I will tell you exactly how I did everything. And what I don't have on my feed, you're gonna have in the book. And what didn't make it into the book because the book is already 380 pages, you're gonna have it in the next book. It is just, so my life, I live it so transparently. So if you are a Black woman who is looking to get into an industry that no one like you has ever succeeded, you can look at me and say, well, she did it in the whitest of the white, the most male of the most male, and she did it in an industry that has a second tier that is set up by the mob. That's a whole other conversation, like legit, it was created by the mob. And I can't sell to my customers. Like, how many businesses can you not sell to your customer? I can't sell to the restaurant that sells to you. I can't sell to this hotel that sells my product to you. I have to sell through an intermediary. So of all of the industries that are white male dominated, this would be the most difficult to crack because I can't even come directly to you. So if I can do it in this industry, I'm leaving every gem as I am finding them in real time, so that it can be applied in every industry.
I want to say something about what Fawn just said a little earlier. She is so true, because I don't even know if she remembered. That's how I got in touch with Fawn to be here through IG.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, you told me, you gave me the contact and the phone number to hit your people up.
Yep.
But I hit you on IG.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Joanna Colbert, and I first want to say thank you, everyone, for putting on Think Bold. It's a great event, it's a great conference, and I feel honored to be here. And I literally rushed back. I had to run somewhere, and I could not miss seeing you, Fawn. I knew who you were. I knew that you were the owner of Uncle Nearest because I know several of the people who drink your brand. And kudos to you because they always have positive things to say about it. But just as you're sitting here and talking about all of the things that you've accomplished, I know you probably like to do a lot of things. How do you prioritize what you should spend your time and energy on? Because it seems like you're super smart, you're super motivated, and you probably could be running in a million different ways. But what would you tell someone if they have a lot of different opportunities, but how to focus on something first to be more successful and then move on to other things?
What I prioritize first, and this is reflective in my calendar, is the Sabbath. I start with that. I'm not Seventh-day Adventist, I'm not Jewish. I actually follow the commandment that says to honor the Sabbath. And so that 24 hours, I think that a lot of people, especially entrepreneurs, the reason why entrepreneurs are not able to think on their toes, and when a problem comes up, they're not able to easily solve it and go straight to that, is they're tired. And so there's two things that I prioritize. Now, I have a chief of staff and I have a scheduler, I have a personal assistant, and I have a travel assistant. So I have 4 assistants. The very first thing that they all do when they're putting anything on my calendar is to check it to make sure I have an 8-hour sleep window and I have the Sabbath blocked. That is where I start. Now, the building block on top of that is the time that I spend with the Lord and with my family. The building block on top of that, now that's when we get to the work that other people talk about. But if you have, I actually heard Dr. Anita Phillips, who's done The Garden Within. Anybody who hasn't had that book, it's a fabulous book. You should get that book. But she, I think, described it best more recently, even though I've done this forever. She described it really, really well. Is when you look in the Bible, when you consider the story of creation or at any time in the Bible, it always refers to day, like a day, a 24-hour period, as night and day. We say day and night, right? But the Bible says night and day. Our day is supposed to begin with rest, so that we have what we need in order to be able to do the work. So when I get on my knees at night and I pray, after I have said the Lord's Prayer, I don't know why we do these long 20-minute prayers. Jesus told us what the prayer was, and it's 90 seconds long. So after I have said my 90-second prayer and I stand up, before I get in the bed, I say to myself, and a lot of times I will say it out loud, I am so excited to begin my day. And then I get in the bed and go to sleep. I rest so well. And I look at that 8-hour period of time as my most productive work. Because that's the period of time that God gets stuff done without me in the way. So then when I wake up in the morning, where a lot of people start snoozing and all the rest of that stuff, I'm super excited to get up because I want to see what he did in the 8 hours I was asleep.
We got how many more? 2 more questions? Okay. Okay, Tanisha has to have the last question.
First of all, thank you so much for being here. I love your faith. So you partially answered my question already about who inspires you and who, a lot of people look to you as a mentor. Who do you look to mentor you?
My husband. He is, we have now been married 20 years. Black don't crack. I didn't even marry him young. But the person who I respect, honor, cherish more than anybody in the world is my husband. But when I left home at 15 and I dropped out of high school, books became my teacher. And so I have spent a lifetime learning from every American Titan who left their secrets behind. We're always trying to find mentors who are living, who themselves are trying to get to a place of success. But we got the roadmaps of every Titan that came before us. You want to know how Rockefeller failed or succeeded? There's 12 books about it. And so for me, if I have never, and this is true to this day, I've never in my life had a mentor. Never. I have some really powerful friends now. But I've never had a mentor. I've had books.
Good afternoon. My name is Elisa Cox-West. My question is, in sociology, it talks about the concept of the burden of representation. And earlier you talked about, going into predominantly white male spaces and having to carry your ancestors sort of with you in those rooms. And even though I know the term is considered burden of representation, it doesn't necessarily sound like it's much of a burden for you. However, does it ever get exhausting going into those spaces where the majority of the people do not look like you? And having to advocate for yourself.
Oh my God.
And,
I don't have to advocate for me. God advocates for me. He invited me into the room.
Yeah.
He put me in the room. So there's a couple things, and we've got to be real careful with language and how we say it. I don't have to bring 388,000 with me. They brought me. And so how we frame things is really important, because when I'm going into a room, and I do it all the time with literally, I go into, they talk about the Illuminati. I don't know if the Illuminati exists, but I'm pretty sure some of the meetings I'm in would probably be considered the Illuminati, because there's no social media, you can't have phones, and it's every billionaire, every NBA owner, NFL owner. Those are the rooms. I love it, because I get to show them what an intelligent black woman can do when she knows who she is.
Yes.
But I don't feel like I have to. It is most certainly not a burden. I love walking in, and for a lot of these people, it's the first time they've ever come across a black woman who is so confident that they're trying to figure out if they lack confidence. I love it. It's an honor.
And my second question for you is around allies and allyship. And how did you go about cultivating allies who truly can support you on your journey, advocate for you on your journey? Because we all know it takes strategy, it takes capital. So how did you go about truly cultivating and curating a group of allies and making those connections?
So one of the reasons I love this story is I am a believer, and until somebody proves me wrong and shows me something else, I believe that Jack Daniel was the first ally we know in business in this country. It's one of the reasons I love sharing the story. But the thing is that most of the time when people say ally, we're almost always thinking of a white male. I'm the best ally of every black person in the spirits industry. And so my group of allies aren't a particular color, they're not a particular gender. So how did I rally people around this story, and how was I able to raise capital during a period of time where everybody's like, you can't raise capital, and I raised $230 million, and I raised not a penny from VC and not a penny from PE, and can't nobody vote me in or vote me out or vote me around, or I control my company, top to bottom. And so the question is how did I do that? Is I got people to believe in my vision. And if someone did not fully believe in my vision, I would not take their money. So there were times where my husband and I were talking about this, and we were laughing about it yesterday with one of our ELT members, and he's like, Fawn thinks it's funny now. It wasn't funny. But to me, and he remembers there was when we were first beginning this, there were stretches of time where we had no money, and I mean no money. And there was this one period of time when we were in a hotel, and I had literally just had a call with an investor call where I was basically pitching an investor, and we absolutely needed the money. 90% of my phone call was telling him no. And we get off the phone, we didn't even know if we had enough available on our credit card to pay that hotel bill. And he said, I don't understand why investors give you money and you tell them no the entire time. And I said, it's because nobody ever tells them no, and I'm telling them my worth from day one. So that is, I have put together a coalition. I've got 170 investors, which to other people seems like a lot of work. But I look at them as 170 salespeople in the field for me. I put them to work. So again, it always goes back to how you frame it.
All right, that's it, ladies and gentlemen, everybody.
You want a question? You sure?
You sure?
Give it a mic.
No.
Give it a mic.
Give Tanisha the
Yes,
last
please
question.
give
Yes.
Tanisha the
Come on,
last question.
Tanisha. You know I was
Our
standing,
final question,
right there.
or final
I was
comment.
standing right next to you, Tanisha.
I really didn't have a question, but I do want to say I appreciate, listen, everything that you have said has resonated with me. I'm a realtor here in Jacksonville. I just hired my first assistant, and so that's a big step for me. So my question for you is, when it comes to boundaries, I feel like that's such a hard thing to navigate in the entrepreneurial world, and as you're leveling up as a CEO. So how do you set those boundaries, and how do you navigate setting those boundaries with people that work with you as well?
So don't sit down. Tell me, when you say boundaries, because people who know me will probably tell you my whole life is a living boundary. I'm real clear about where my boundaries are, and everybody else is too. But tell me, give me some type of an example to help me to understand what you're referring to.
Okay, so I guess what I'm saying as far as boundaries, as like you said, Troy messaged you, you gave him a direct contact. So as far as like, you have like a little bit of you have a lot of personal level on your social media where you respond to people, you're actually responding to DMs, but when it gets overwhelming, when people are trying to invade your space, like you have your space with your husband, you have your time with your husband, how do you go about setting those boundaries, I guess in the early stages?
I think I know what you're saying. So people know if I'm with my husband, I ain't answering your call. Like the boundaries are, I begin, and I think this isn't the answer to your question, but I think this will help get to the answer to your question. I begin with no. Every investor who is invested in my company will tell you I began with no. You have to earn a yes from me. So a lot of people, most people, they begin with yes, and then they become overwhelmed because they've said yes to so many people that now they're tired, and now they're exhausted, and now they don't have time for the things that matter the most. I begin with no. And every yes is an earned yes. So because Keith and my relationship with my husband is the most important, I don't care who I am talking to on the phone. If he calls me, you're being put on hold. I don't care if you're about to put $100 million into my company. If he calls me, my husband's calling me, I'll call you back. Or, hold on, my husband. But everybody is used to that, right? Everybody knows if you call me or message me after 9 p.m., I won't see it until the next day because my phone auto shuts off because I need to rest. If you DM me, I had a new leader in my company who was super excited to share something with me on Sunday. And so he texted, and it was like, in advance of tomorrow, My response, Sabbath, period. So the boundaries are really easy if you explain them up front. I think a lot of people start trying to explain boundaries when they're tired, and they don't do a good job at that. But if you tell people what is important to you up front, and then you set up your entire life to mirror what you have said is important, boundaries are just there. You don't even have to put them up.
You know what? I gotta say something about that, Fawn. I gotta say this. What you just said, that just hit me. Because Fawn said, when we first asked, Fawn said no. We had to hit her about 3 or 4 months later and give it another shot. You said no.
But then they earned the yes.
So wow, let's give Fawn a hand. And before we close out, I want to say thank you for sharing the jewels and being authentic and transparent and inspiring. Thank you. And Troy and Mo, thank you for allowing me this opportunity to share the stage with all 3 of you. I'm forever indebted and in love with you guys, so thank you. And lastly, wait, Troy, wait, I still got the mic. No, I'm gonna give you and Mo the very last words, and then we'll disperse and do what you tell us to do next.
Now, we want to thank you ladies, number one. We want to thank everybody who came. Please, thank you. We want to thank all our partners to support us and our passion to be a part of moving our city. And I want to thank all our team leaders, because we couldn't do this shit without y'all. We really need to thank every one of y'all. I don't want to say your names because I don't want to miss anybody, but I know it's been a hard week or two, and I know Mo's been spazzing out on y'all.
Now y'all know. I ain't even got to answer that. But no, same thing. Thank you guys. Thank you, Fawn, for being here. Thank you for allowing us to earn that yes. Because that's an honor. Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, everybody. Like you said, don't want to get into calling names and all that stuff, but just, I'm grateful. Please spread the word. Think Bowl 25 is on the books. So
Yeah.
we got, this is,
Make sure.
yeah, today. We got the date,
date.
11th and 12th of 25. So, yeah, bigger and better. Just spread the word. This is ours, y'all. This is for our community. Let's think bold. That's it.
Now we're gonna hit State City.
What? They